Hi, I'm Mal from the Money Study, bringing you another episode in our Take 10 challenge, and we're up to number 46, all about robot investing. Before we kick off, there's the disclaimer: all about facts, all about figures, information only. It is not advice to be taken personally. Okay, robot investing. You perhaps go and see a financial planner to have some money invested, and one of the first things the financial planner will do, he will sit you down and give you a little questionnaire. Now, this questionnaire might have 8 questions and 10 questions, 15 questions. This is after he's already found out, what money you've got and all your other bits and pieces. But this is to find out what type of investor are you. So this is what they call a risk profile questionnaire. And you go through the questions, and the sort of questions are like, what would you do if the share market, if your investment fell by 20%? What's the most risky thing you've ever bought? Have you bought shares before? And it sort of goes through a string of questions, and at the end of it, he can then add up the tally up. Each question gets a score. At the end of it, he adds it all up, and from that score, he can pigeonhole you as an aggressive investor, a balanced investor, a conservative investor, and so forth. And that's what they do. And I've worked for a number of different financial planning practices, and pretty much the questions between companies is pretty much identical. So if the questions are the same and the answers from it can be analysed quite quickly by just adding up a score depending on your response, then surely a computer can do exactly the same thing. And that's exactly what's going on here. They get an algorithm that basically you answer the questions, it scores it, adds it all up, and then comes out at the end, and the computer says, yep, you are a balanced investor, or whatever the case may be. So by doing this, eliminating that step, we're actually saving ourselves some money, because we're not now paying the advisor his time and effort and so forth to do so. So this is starting to change the way that we've done things in the past, and it's making it more affordable for many people. Now, of course, anything to do with this, you need to do your homework and compare, because there's a lot of different robo-advisors out there. They're not all the same, that is for sure, and I'll go through some of that a little bit later on. But it is a case that you need to do your homework to decide whether it's right, a good fit for you. They sort of started in the US around about 2008. Australia took a bit longer to sort of get on board, but since about 2014, they've been certainly gaining traction in Australia. Now, what goes on here is that once the robot advisor has pigeonholed you as what type of investor you may be, it can then, the next step is to generate a portfolio for you. Now, most of these robo-advisors use ETFs. And so they will say, okay, anybody who is a balanced investor, what we need for them is to have, 65% or whatever it may be in shares, and that might be, half of that Australian, might be half of it might be American, and so it goes on, or international. And so therefore the robo basically goes away and has a input for the different sorts of ETFs that can be used. So literally what it does, it comes back and says, okay, you need these 5, 6, 7, might be only 4, depending on the company and so forth. You need these particular ETFs in this particular percentage to give you a portfolio that suits you and your profile. So this is what we've been trying to get to with what we've been talking about over the last few days or so. And this is the hard part. The hard part is to actually work out, well, what do I start with? How much do I need of each type of thing? And so it goes on. So it's a really good starting point by using one of these robo-advisors to give us some information, to give us a sort of a starting point. And as I say, because there's no advisor effectively involved, generally speaking, there's no advisor fee at all. But a lot of these services do provide advice or some assistance in some way on top of it if you want it, to help you set it all up, or to do some rebalancing perhaps, or something along the lines of making changes and so forth. So there might be some low advisor fees, but generally speaking, the fees on these systems here are very, very, very good. And of course, it can be the start of your portfolio, and then you can add to it. So we might be indeed adding some shares, the particular shares you want to do to spice up your portfolio. Could be that you want to add some particular bond or whatever it may be. But you can start off with a diversified portfolio from the advisor and then add to it as you see fit. Now there's a string of different companies. I've just mentioned a few there, but there's quite a few. If you just do a Google search on Robo-advisor in Australia, it'll come up back with a whole series of different companies that we can use. And I'll give you an idea how to sort of analyse that in a couple of minutes or so. So what it comes down to is I've just done a snapshot here of a report from StockSpot. So I went to StockSpot just as an example here. That's not recommending them by any way. It's just the fact that I went to StockSpot as being one of the bigger ones, and I went to their website. I answered the questions, and at the end of answering the questions, it came back with a report. Now, I can't remember whether I actually answered these questions for me or just made up some answers. I'm not too sure, so don't take that is who I am. But it came back with this report. It was a 6-page report with lots of information and performance and how it all worked. But the key here was that it actually said you should buy these 5 ETFs, and you can see them there. There's a physical gold one, a composite bonds, emerging markets, a global shares, and an Australian shares. And it came back with the actual name of the iShares, the Vanguard, and so forth, the actual brand, the company that I should be using, and also gave me the pie chart above it to sort of see the percentages. Now on this particular screenshot, it doesn't show the numbers, but on another page, it actually said, 22% of something, 47% of this one, and so it goes on. So just with that information, I could literally take that information, go to my online account, punch in, I want to buy some Vanguard Australian shares. I've got $2,000 to invest, out of which 27% of it, or whatever it was shares. I can then calculate exactly I need to buy $580 worth of whatever it might have been. And so it goes on. Now, all of that was for free. It didn't cost me anything to get to that point. Now, of course, when they sent me the report, they said, would you like us to set it all up for you? They gave us their fees of ongoing services and all this sort of stuff. I just politely said no. They've never hassled me ever again, but I got to keep the report with all the information, and so literally I could go off and do this myself. Now, if I wanted to, yes, I could get them to set it all up. Doesn't mean you have to stay with them, but you could get them indeed to set it all up, and so it goes on. But it just comes down to, do you need the hand holding or not? But if this is the sort of information that you need just to kickstart it, then this is not a bad way of playing the game, in the regard that we can get some information here that is, well, in this particular case, it was free. And I can use that information to generate a diversified portfolio suiting me and my risk profile. Delightful. Now, of course, this is just one company, and there are indeed a string of these companies. So you've got to make sure that, we're finding the company that's got good fees and so forth. So I went to CanStar and Finder, these sort of comparison websites. CanStar is excellent for a lot of comparison of financial products and so forth. But I've just done a little, again, it's just a little snapshot of one of the pages there. These are not the top 4 or anything like that. I couldn't fit them all in on one page, and so I just want to give you the idea of how it works. So I've just done a snapshot at random there, showing you 4 different robo-advisors. And then it's got the columns, and the first column you can see there after the name is their fees. And so you can sort of see that they vary, per month or year or so it goes on, and the fees can be quite a bit of difference between them. But of course, always be careful if they say there's no fee. How do they make their money? Where indeed are they making their money? And so it goes on. So the second column is your minimum investment amount. And you can see there with Raise, you only need $5 to kick it off. So that's a nice one for somebody who really wants to start very, very small. They just want to see if it's going to work and trust the systems and get used to it, how it all, before they start investing larger lumps of money. You can just play around with $5. Lovely. People like StockSpot, 2,000, but even then 2,000, it's not, we're not putting our life savings or our, our 200,000 or 500,000 from our super or anything like that into this before we understand what it all means. The third column, you can see there, what do they use? Now, I say Raise and StockSpot and Quiet Growth there, they're all using ETFs. Spaceship a little bit different. They are actually indeed using shares. But on the final column there, it's the number of different portfolios that they offer. Now we can see there at StockSpot they've got 10 different portfolios. That's not 10 different ETFs. That's 10 different combinations of ETFs. So that you can generate, like say, aggressive portfolios. It's a mixed bag. It'll have some ETFs that are bonds and ETFs that are in shares and so forth. But it may be that you've got an ethical bent, so you want a sustainable or an ethical portfolio. Or you might want ones that have got cryptocurrencies and so forth. So quite a huge range of different portfolios there that they're offering. Now, as I say, big difference between these sort of companies, and you need to understand that there are differences, and that's where you need to do a bit of homework. Spend a bit more of your time to work out which way to jump here. But yes, if you use people like StockSpot, they're providing you with these ETFs, and yes, they can do it, or you can go off and do it. But when you look at ones like Raise, they're slightly different, where what they are doing, it is a case of literally Raise started off as a company called Acorns. Started off as Acorns, and what it was a bit like the days when you used to come home from work, you'd empty your pockets out, take all the 5 cent, 10 cent pieces or whatever, and even the copper, if you're old enough to remember 1 and 2 cent pieces, stick it into the glass jar beside the bed, and when the glass jar was full, you'd go to the bank and they'd put it in and stick it into your savings account. What Acorns did was literally you associated your Acorns account with your bank account. And it's pick a bank account that's doing a lot of transactions, and it literally just rounded off every transaction, rounded off to the nearest dollar or so, and then literally took that small change, the rounding, and automatically it deducted it from your bank account and put it into the Acorns account. So it's a bit like, a bit like the old money jar. But it was because they're taking very small amounts on a regular basis, you didn't really feel the pain. And it worked very, very well. And because it worked very well and their performance was good, they were using a combination of ETFs for the different portfolios that people thought, well, I wouldn't mind even just using these guys to invest. So they wanted to add money. So the company got bigger and they'd now be called Raise. But you can literally, not only can you have the rounding on a regular basis or irregular, you can also put in money yourself. So you can contribute, $50 a pay or $5 a pay or $5 a month or $200 a week. And so it goes, that's up to you. You can do ad hoc, just all of a sudden you got a bit of money from a bonus or something. You say, I might just take that bonus and put it into my investment. So you just contribute $2,000 or whatever it may be into your Raise account. So very, very simple to use, and it just comes on an app on your phone. Just an app on your phone so that you can literally just keep an eye on it, and you can do transactions and so forth, and move money within 24 hours back to your bank account, and so it goes on. So that style of investing can be very simple. You may not want to have to open up a share trading account, but you want to get involved by getting something going outside of just having a bank account. So these things are very, very simple to use, very easy to set up, and very easy to add to. Now the fees when the account balance is very low is a little bit steep compared to the amount of money. So if you only had $5 in there and you're paying $4.50 a month, yeah, well, okay, that's not going to work, But as your account balance grows, and some of these companies, when you hit sort of figures like about 15,000 or something like that, their fee structure sort of changes. and the fees as a percentage of what you've got become quite low and quite effective. So they can be quite useful, and for people who want to do it. And of course, it's not a case that you just have to have a raise account or just have a stock spot account or whatever it may be. You can have both, and see which ways work for you. You might have one, you might have two, and might have even a number of different companies in the early days. You might then have your shares as well, and as your education builds and your knowledge builds, you can then say, well, look, I don't need that. I can actually do that with my other style of investing, and so it goes on. But as a starting point, some of these offerings here can be a very nice, tidy, easy way. But what I'm trying to do here is, over the last few days or so, it's been pretty complicated, and there's lots of options. And having lots of options means it is complicated. So if we can find something that simplifies it, and what I'm trying to do is get something to get you started, because you can sort of, delay and delay and delay because you think, oh, I just need that extra bit of information. I'm just a bit worried about that, or there's something just putting you off. If you can start off with something like like a Raise or an Acorns or whatever it may be, I say there's some of these banks have got their own, if it gets you kick-started to get your money invested into something like these ETFs and things to get you some exposure, and then you get to understand the risks, all well and good. So do a bit of homework. You jump on one of these comparison sites, click on one of the sites to sort of see more information, find out how they work, have a close look at the fees and so forth, try and understand the jargon, and move forward from there. Look forward to you joining me on another session.